I've got my full dynamic warm-up routine for you today. This is just a quick one to go over this 3-step progression that I've put in place, where I break down the movement into a couple of different learning stages to make it a bit easier before we build up to the most complex version, which would be stage 3, the third phase. The first phase is just a knee hug and a lunge. It's very basic. As you can see playing at the moment now, the second phase is a knee hug, a spiderman lunge. I've got a bit of a hamstring stretch in there, as you can see, just pulling up on the toe there, and then an upward rotation. The final phase, which is the most complex, involves the knee hug, an overhead lunge, arms fully extended overhead, fully flexed overhead at the shoulders, as you can see here. Then I go into the hamstring stretch, and then the last phase is an elbow to knee. I just go for a 2 count there, and then the upward rotation. Now the idea of this dynamic warm-up is to really open up the hips, to work on our thoracic mobility, so our upper back, and those 2 areas often contribute to lower back pain. It's referred, so this is just slowed down a little bit so I can go through each phase for you properly. So the first progression, I'm probably just going to keep talking over the top of that. It's very basic and self-explanatory: knee hug and lunge. So we get a lot of referred pain into our lower backs as a result of a lack of mobility in other areas. So our lower back, our lumbar spine, often tries to compensate for tight hip flexors, a low level of activation in our glutes, immobile thoracic spine, and even all the way down to our ankles. If we've got immobile ankles, this can often lead to lower back pain, because our lower back, being right in the center of our whole body, it will manipulate itself and it will adapt in any way that it can to ensure that we're still able to do the activities that we want to do, which is in many respects a great thing, but it often leads to lower back pain, which is an absolute killer for fast bowlers. I'm sure we've all had some level of back pain at some point. I know I've suffered from a couple of lower back injuries, and it's a real area that we want to take a lot of care of. So if we can remove some of that referred pain from other areas and rebalance the parts of our body that are sort of thrown out by the unnatural way we live our lives today, where we're constantly sitting, constantly playing on laptops, constantly driving around, and putting our body in a position that it really shouldn't be in most of the time, then we'll do a lot to help ourselves in our lower backs. And injury prevention is a huge thing that I emphasize a lot. So what I'll do right now is I will talk you through the most complex phase. So we've got the knee hug into the overhead lunge. As I come down, it's very difficult to balance, and it will test out your coordination, which is something that we definitely need to work on. Hamstring stretch, just pull up through the hamstring, extend out at the knee and the hip, and then we go a 2 count of elbow to toe, and then rotation up. Now, when we rotate up, it's very important that we follow our hand with our eyes to make sure that we are rotating through our thoracic spine as well, and not just turning our head through our neck. We need to make sure that we follow all the way through with our shoulders rotating as well, and really rotate through our thoracic spine. Make sure that we're really opening up all of that area and working on our mobility. When we're not trying to cheat, there's no shortcuts here. You're only cheating yourself if you're not doing this properly. As you can see, my shoulders are a straight line from ground all the way up through my arms, and that's the way I want it done. Now I'm just going to show you a side-on shot of the full sequence. This is just a normal speed. As you can see, I might have to steady myself a little bit at that overhead lunge phase, because it is difficult, and it's where we want to be aiming for. It's designed to be difficult. This is the final progression that we want to work towards. Some other things to note: I'd like to see a full extension in that knee there. I'm just not flexible enough to get it out, which is a little bit frustrating. But if you're able to, definitely go for full extension at that knee and really get a good long stretch in that hamstrings, through those hamstrings. Very important area that we need to work on our flexibility as well. Now, something that this doesn't address is ankle mobility. So that's something that you'll need to work on as well as this drill. And a couple of other areas that are pretty important to mobilize are our shoulders, which I don't really find this drill does a lot for. I try and get a little bit of that sort of shoulder mobility in the overhead lunge, but it's not perfect. So there you go. Enjoy. Give it a go. It's a great way to warm up for training and for playing, and it's a real necessary part of the game is to be mobile.